Poor girl fought with a dress in public. The millionaire CEO, watching, fell instantly in love. She didn't mean to fall in love that day. Not with the city staring. Not with her dress on backward. Not when her life was barely stitched together by bobby pins and cheap hope. But sometimes, the wrong zipper leads you to the right person. And the man who hadn't smiled in years laughed. Just laughed so hard the world tilted just a little. That's when everything began. Not with a kiss, but with a coffee spill, a crumpled $20 bill, and a girl who walked into a skyscraper looking for a job, and accidentally found a heart that had forgotten how to feel. Willa Carter was late. Not fashionably late. Not oops, traffic late. She was the kind of late that made her sprint down a Manhattan sidewalk with one shoe flapping, a bobby pin stabbing her scalp, and a dress that, God help her, she only now realized was on entirely backward. She skidded to a stop in front of the building, catching a glimpse of herself in the mirrored glass of the Ward Global Tower. Her reflection stared back, wild-eyed and betrayed. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." There it was, zipper in the front, tag sticking to her chest like a badge of dishonor. The neckline meant for the back now shaped her front like a toddler's attempt at origami. She spun in a frantic circle, trying to twist the dress into shape while simultaneously tugging at the hem and muttering to herself like a conspiracy theorist at a bus stop. A few feet away, a man in a suit nearly dropped his coffee watching her flail. 30 stories above her, Ethan Ward paused mid-stride, heading toward a boardroom full of impatient millionaires. He was a man carved in sharp edges, known for never laughing, never blinking longer than necessary, and never, under any circumstance, losing focus. Until now, because when he glanced out the window and saw a woman fighting her own outfit like it had insulted her mother, something inside him cracked. And then he laughed. A real, full-bodied laugh that echoed through the hall like a rumor no one would believe. His assistant Marcus leaned in, startled. "Look," Ethan gasped, pointing down to the street. Marcus blinked. "Is she trying to bite off the tag?" "This," Ethan said, still breathless, "might be the most honest thing I've seen all year." Down below, Willa managed to fix her dress with a single rusted bobby pin, giving her a silhouette best described as post-apocalyptic chic. She blew the hair out of her face, squared her shoulders, and marched toward the entrance. As she pushed through the revolving door, too forcefully, she almost got stuck. The moment she entered, the lobby swallowed her whole. It gleamed with polished floors and whispered judgment. People moved like they belonged here, like they knew the price of things Willa had only seen on Pinterest. But Willa had made it, barely, and she still had 3 minutes left. She approached the reception desk with the kind of confidence you can only fake. "Hi, I'm here for the assistant interview." The receptionist didn't look up. "Name?" "Willa Carter." 25th floor, the finger pointed. Inside the elevator, Willa finally exhaled. She looked at her reflection and forced a crooked smile. The tag was gone. The neckline almost made sense. Her hair... Well, let's not talk about the hair. "You're okay," she whispered. "It's fine, it's just one interview. With a normal company, filled with normal people." The elevator doors opened, and she slammed directly into a man. His coffee, hot, fresh, terrifyingly brown, exploded all over his immaculate white shirt. Willa froze. Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, already digging through her purse. "Here, I'll pay for the shirt, I swear." She pulled out a crumpled $20.00 bill, shoved it toward him with trembling hands. "Or 5 payments, and a bonus coupon for sarcasm?" The man blinked, looked down at his soaked shirt, looked back at her, and smiled. No, smirked, a twitch of amusement so rare it should have been caught on camera. Willa tried to disappear. "I'm just trying to get to an interview," she mumbled, cheeks burning. "For the assistant position?" the man asked. She nodded. He stepped aside and gestured toward a glass door. "Well," he said, "good luck, Willa Carter." She stared at him. "Thanks. Coffee guy?" and walked past him, completely unaware that she'd just spilled a latte all over Ethan Ward, the billionaire CEO of Ward Global, and that her life was about to change forever. Chapter 1. The Interview That Wasn't. The door clicked shut behind Willa Carter, and immediately the air changed. The interview room was massive, too massive and polished to the point of intimidation. A glass conference table stretched before her like a frozen lake, and 3 intimidating professionals sat behind it, flipping through her resume as if searching for a reason to send her home. She gulped. No turning back. A woman with a tight bun and the facial expression of someone who'd recently bitten into a lemon lifted her eyes first. "Miss Carter?" "Yes," Willa said, trying not to sound breathless. "Willa. Carter. That's me. Present." The other 2 panelists, a gray-haired man in a perfectly creased suit and a younger analyst whose nameplate read Sandra, all turned their gazes on her at once. "You may begin by introducing yourself," the gray-haired man said, his tone flat but firm. Willa smiled too widely, flipped her hair back in a gesture that dislodged the lone bobby pin holding her dress together, and began to speak as the neckline started slowly sliding south. "My name is Willa Carter," she began, with the forced confidence of someone reciting something they'd practiced in a bathroom mirror 37 times. "I'm very passionate about, learning things. All things. Really. I'm an extremely, enthusiastic learner." The room blinked. Enthusiastic learner? That was it? The girl who'd prepared flashcards and inspirational quotes all morning was now melting like a popsicle under pressure? And then, like divine punishment, her phone rang. Loud, obnoxious, "Happy birthday," remixed with ambulance sirens. A Megan original. "Oh no, no, no!" Willa panicked, yanking her phone out of her purse and pressing every button at once. She accidentally answered it. "Girl, did you make it, or did you faint in the lobby again?" Megan's voice blasted through the speaker. Willa slammed the phone face down on the glass table like she was trying to kill a bug. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "My friend thinks I died. It's a safety thing." The interviewers stared, not amused. The gray-haired man cleared his throat. "Let's move on. Tell us your greatest strength." Willa opened her mouth. Her brain gave her nothing. "I can do a really accurate motorcycle impression," she blurted. Silence. I improvise well, I adapt. For example, this dress is held together right now by a single bobby pin and hope." The bun woman sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. And then, a breeze. Willa's resume, which had been neatly stacked in front of them, caught wind from an open window and fluttered upward. Straight into the air vent. Without thinking, she lunged for it and in the process knocked over a glass of water directly onto the interviewer's stack of notes. "I'll dry it," she exclaimed, reaching into her purse. Unfortunately, what she pulled out was not a tissue. It was her grocery list, scrawled in Sharpie. "Extra strong deodorant." He echoed again. "Sanitary pads. Ice cream, chocolate, judgment-free." She froze, caught between laughing and crying. "I'm extremely organized," she added, holding the soggy list like it was her business card. The room stared. "Miss Carter," the gray-haired man said, taking off his glasses, "why do you want to work at Ward Global?" This was her moment. The one she'd prepared for, rehearsed in the mirror, whispered on the train, written on her palm. But nothing came. Why did she want this job? Because she was tired of scraping rent, because she was tired of rejection letters, because her heart was so worn out from trying and failing and getting back up again. But all she managed was, "Because I want to pay my bills and not sell fudge on the sidewalk." The younger analyst chuckled. "I brought samples," Willa added quickly, digging through her purse. Instead of fudge, she pulled out a single pair of backup tights, tangled, rolled, and vaguely horrifying. She shoved them back in, and just when she thought it couldn't get worse, the door opened. He walked in like he owned the building, which he did. Ethan Ward, still in his coffee-stained shirt, still unreadable, still with the faintest trace of that earlier smirk on his lips. Willa stared at him in horror. "You," she whispered, pointing. The panel turned. "You know each other?" the bun woman asked. Willa opened her mouth, but Ethan beat her to it. "She's the one who spilled coffee on me in the elevator," he said evenly. The one applying for the assistant role. The panel braced for a takedown. "I came to let you know the interview's over," Ethan added. Willa stood up fast, heart dropping into her shoes. "Of course. I understand. I'm sorry. She's already hired." Silence. Even the air stopped moving. The bun woman blinked. "Excuse me?" "She's exactly what this place needs," Ethan said, stepping closer. "Courage, improvisation, and the unique ability to make everything unforgettable." Willa stared at him, stunned. Was this real? "Welcome to Ward Global," Ethan said, and for the first time in years, he smiled. "And bring those fudge samples tomorrow. I'm curious now." Outside the door, Willa stood for a full 30 seconds, unmoving. She clutched the same $20.00 she'd tried to hand him earlier and whispered to herself, "This is either a divine miracle or a very elaborate prank." What she didn't know, couldn't possibly have known, was that Ethan hadn't hired her because of her resume. He'd hired her because when he looked at her, he laughed. And when he laughed, he remembered what it felt like to feel something real. Section 2. Walking Disaster, Corporate Edition. Willa Carter's first official day at Ward Global began with a small victory. She didn't wear her dress backward. That was where the victories ended. She stood at the entrance of the 40th floor, executive level, clutching her new company badge and a tote bag filled with just-in-case items. A lint roller, snacks, backup shoes, and a granola bar that was currently melting into a sticky puddle. The office was quiet. Too quiet. Everything gleamed, people walked with purpose, spoke in hushed tones, and wore monochrome outfits that looked like they cost more than her rent. And then there was Willa, in a blouse with a barely noticeable coffee stain and a skirt that may or may not have been from a clearance bin at Target. A man with a headset and a sleek tablet gave her a once-over. "You must be the new assistant." Willa smiled like she hadn't tripped twice on the elevator ride up. "That's me, new disaster, reporting for duty." He didn't smile. "Mr. Ward's office is that way." She turned and walked directly into a glass wall. It made a sound. Everyone looked up. "Cool," she muttered, straightening herself. "Just testing the structural integrity." Moments later, she found her desk. A sleek white space just outside a tall, frosted glass door. On the desk was a welcome note. "Willa, welcome to Chaos, you'll fit right in. Marcus." Next to it was a to-do list in perfect font and terrifying length. Scan contracts. Organize digital files. Filter inboxes. Easy enough, right? Willa cracked her knuckles, opened the first folder, and immediately renamed it Help File instead of Legal FY25. Within 20 minutes, she had sent a confidential contract to the HR printer, where it printed double-sided and upside down. Renamed a folder of annual earnings to money stuff, maybe? And somehow, enabled an automatic email reply for Ethan Ward that said, "Thanks for your message. I'm currently unavailable, but here's a llama doing a dance." She stared at the screen, horrified. No, undo, where's the undo? Behind her a voice said, "Did you just send a llama gif to our Chinese investors?" She turned slowly. Ethan Ward stood in the doorway, holding his phone with the cursed email open. Willa laughed nervously. "Corporate morale?" He stared at her. She braced for impact. But then he smiled. "Congratulations," he said, folding his arms. "You've broken the previous record for office chaos. 2 hours. Efficiency is my superpower," she replied with a bow. He laughed again, actually laughed. She wasn't sure what shocked her more, the fact that she hadn't been fired, or the fact that the Iceman smiled like he'd been doing it his whole life. By lunchtime, Willa was determined to redeem herself. She decided to bring Ethan a coffee. Simple, thoughtful, unmissable. Except the machine splattered hot liquid all over her blouse, the sugar went into the wrong cup, and she stirred it with the back of a pen because she couldn't find a spoon. When she knocked on Ethan's office door, she looked like a Jackson Pollock painting in shades of espresso. He opened it and blinked. "I brought coffee," she said proudly. "It's got personality." He took it, dripping and all. "I'll savor every drop," he said, amused. The rest of the day was no better. She tripped over a wire and sent 3 stacks of contracts flying, mistook a VIP visitor for the janitor, and complimented his amazing mop skills, and accidentally added an entire office to an international Zoom call meant for one. By 3 p.m. she was legendary. People whispered as she walked by, "She's the one from the interview, right? I heard she set the break room on fire with a toaster. I think she's undercover, like a corporate spy from BuzzFeed." Willa just smiled and kept walking. She'd rather be the walking disaster than the invisible nobody she used to be. And besides, every time she looked toward Ethan's glass office, he wasn't fuming or yelling. He was watching her with that strange, unreadable smile. Later that afternoon, as the sun dipped into the skyline, Ethan leaned against the door frame of her desk. "Come with me," he said. "To HR?" she asked, deadpan. "No," he replied. "Dinner, company event, tonight." Willa blinked. "You want me, the human fire drill, to attend a formal business dinner?" "I need a buffer," Ethan said. "Someone chaotic enough to distract from the fact that I hate small talk." She narrowed her eyes. "So, I'm your shield?" He shrugged. "And entertainment." Willa groaned. "Do I get hazard pay?" Ethan smiled. "You get a dress code and dessert." She sighed, already dreading what could go wrong. "Fine, but if I trip into the soup course, I'm blaming you." "That's fair." That evening, as she stood in front of her mirror, trying to zip herself into a borrowed dress, she paused. This wasn't the life she planned. It wasn't neat, or safe, or according to any kind of vision board. But it was real. It was happening. And somewhere between spilling coffee on a billionaire and sending dancing llamas to high-powered clients, Willa Carter was slowly becoming unforgettable. Especially to the one man who wasn't supposed to notice anyone at all. Chapter 3. Gala night and a chicken croquet catastrophe. The heels were too high, the dress was too tight, and Willa Carter had never felt more out of place in her life. She stood in front of the glossy black car that had arrived to pick her up for the gala, clutching a borrowed clutch like it might save her from drowning. Megan's final instructions rang in her ears. "Stand up straight, smile like you're a woman of mystery, and, for the love of all things holy, don't eat anything stuffed until after you meet people." As if that last part would stick. Inside the car, Ethan Ward looked calm, immaculate, a man carved from midnight suits and expensive cologne. He glanced over when she climbed in, his eyes pausing on her red dress. "You clean up well," he said casually. She adjusted her strap. "And you look exactly like a man who's about to regret bringing me in front of people who own yachts." "I like a little chaos with my wine," he replied, then added under his breath, "God help us all." The venue looked like something out of a Gatsby fever dream. Chandeliers dripping with crystals, a string quartet playing something impossibly elegant. Waiters floated by with trays of amuse-bouches Willa couldn't pronounce, let alone identify. "I feel like I just stepped into a movie where I'm the comic relief," she whispered to Ethan as they entered. "You are," he said, "but you're also the lead." She didn't know what to say to that. So she didn't. They hadn't even reached the table before it happened. A waiter passed by with a tray of appetizers, and without thinking, Willa reached out. "Sir, can I get a really stuffed chicken croquet? I'm feeling fancy tonight," she said brightly. Ethan's head turned so fast it was a miracle he didn't strain his neck. The waiter froze mid-step. I'm not a server," the man said, then smiled. "But I'm glad someone appreciates a good croquet." It was Mr. Wang, one of Ward Global's most important foreign investors. Willa's stomach fell to her shoes. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean... I just thought... Trey, she stammered, looking like she might actually leap out a window. To her surprise, Mr. Wang burst into laughter. "Delightful," he said, still chuckling. "Finally a dinner that doesn't feel like a funeral." Ethan leaned close, whispering in her ear, "See, you're already earning your paycheck." Willa wanted to disappear, but the mood in the room shifted. People relaxed. Smiles returned, the atmosphere softened, just slightly. And all because of her mistake. As they sat down, Willa did her best to blend in, smile when appropriate, nod at names she would forget by dessert. But then came the soup. It arrived in a tiny porcelain bowl with a garnish that looked like seaweed arranged by angels. She lifted her spoon, blew a little too hard, and the broth splashed directly onto the German businessman's lap beside her. "I'll wash that for you," she exclaimed in panic, reaching for a napkin. "Please don't," Ethan said, grabbing her hand gently. "I really shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I disagree," he replied. Later, trying to redeem herself, she grabbed a bottle of sparkling water and, in a moment of distracted nerves, shook it before opening. The result? A champagne-level explosion that drenched half the table. Gasps, silence, and then laughter. Again. Mr. Wang clapped. "She's a blessing, just a wet one." After dinner, there was music, slow, string-heavy, the kind that makes people dance like they're gliding on clouds. Willa watched from the side, clutching a mini tart she had finally succeeded in biting without dropping. She felt like she was watching a life that didn't belong to her. Then, a voice at her shoulder. "Dance with me," Ethan said. She looked at him. "I just exploded sparkling water. Do you really want to risk me near a polished floor?" "I'll take my chances." He held out his hand. She took it. They moved slowly at first, his hand on her waist, hers on his shoulder. The music swelled, people twirled around them like film stars. "You're doing better than I expected," he said quietly. "I'm concentrating very hard on not falling. Should I be offended you only stay upright when you're afraid of me? I'm afraid of gravity. You're just an added challenge." He laughed again, a soft, warm laugh that made her chest ache in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. They were closer now, closer than she'd realized. And then, of course, she tripped. He caught her instantly, her face inches from his hand still holding her, steady and unshaken. "You caught me," she whispered, breathless. "I always will," he said. And just like that, something shifted. It wasn't a kiss, but it was something. Later that night, back in the car, Willa leaned against the seat, exhausted. "That was eventful," she murmured. "You turned a business gala into a viral memory," Ethan said. "Are you mad?" He looked at her for a long moment. "No. I'm grateful." She blinked at him, confused. "You reminded everyone, including me, that we're still human," he added, "even if we wear $1,000 suits." She bit her lip. "So, I didn't ruin it." "You saved it," he said, then added softly, "and I think you might be saving more than you know." She didn't answer. Couldn't. Because if she did, her voice might break. Instead, she stared out the window and smiled. Chapter 4. Operation Refine the Hurricane. It started with a text message. From Ethan Ward. Time, 7:03 a.m. "Good morning, Hurricane. Your etiquette training starts at 10 a.m. Wear something comfortable. Try not to set anything on fire until then." Willa Carter stared at her phone like it had just insulted her. "Comfortable," she muttered, flipping through her closet. "Does he mean gym clothes or I give up on life clothes?" Eventually she settled on a neon avocado tracksuit and light-up sneakers Megan had given her as a joke. She looked in the mirror, blinking LED lights bouncing off her cheeks. "I'm not going to a job," she mumbled. "I'm going into battle." The conference room had been transformed into a high-society boot camp. Crisp linens, porcelain teacups, a dummy formal dining setup, and, at the head of the table, a woman who looked like she hadn't smiled since 1993. "This," Ethan said, gesturing grandly, "is Penelope von Schneider. She once taught etiquette to a royal family. Penelope, meet Willa Carter, your most impossible student." Penelope took one long look at Willa's avocado print and blinking shoes, then sighed, loudly. "We begin with posture," she declared, tapping a wooden pointer against the back of Willa's chair. Willa sat up so quickly her vertebrae popped. The morning was a series of personal defeats. The napkin went on her head instead of her lap. She thought the dessert spoon was for soup. She tried to clink her teacup like in a movie and shattered it. At one point, Penelope muttered something in French. Willa didn't speak French, but she was pretty sure it wasn't a compliment. Ethan stood in the corner of the room the entire time, arms crossed, fighting a smile. "You sure this isn't a hidden camera prank?" Willa asked him during a break. "Positive," he said. But if it were, you'd win an award. After lunch came speech training. Repeat after me, Penelope instructed. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Willa gave her best pageant smile. Sup, boss? Nice to meet you. Love your vibe. Penelope visibly aged 10 years. Ethan burst out laughing. I'm putting that on your business card. Then came walking drills. A book on her head. A glass of water in her hand. By step 5, she had knocked over a side table and spilled the water on Ethan's shoes. Just refining the chaos, she said, handing him a napkin. Finally, Penelope gave up. We're going out to practice in the real world, she announced. There's a formal restaurant nearby. Maybe immersion will shock her into elegance. Willa stood. Can I wear the light-up shoes? Now, at the restaurant, Willa really tried. She sat up straight, ordered politely, even used the correct fork. Until the escargot arrived. It's a snail, she whispered. It's looking at me. It's dead, Penelope snapped. Then why does it still have judgment in its eyes? Ethan was biting his lip so hard he might have drawn blood. When she accidentally launched a meatball across the table and onto his plate, she shrugged. Guess that's yours now, boss. He ate it without blinking. Back at the office, Penelope gave her final verdict. Mr. Ward, this girl is a lost cause. I know, Ethan said. But she's my lost cause. Willa blinked. The schedules, obviously. As of yesterday, the laborers aren't moving. They said they're done working. Willa blinked. Was that romantic or a... Willa? Could be both, Ethan replied. The days that followed were a whirlwind of transformation attempts. In dance class, she stepped on Ethan's feet until he danced with a chair instead. In fashion class, she learned about elegant color palettes, and the next day arrived in a hot pink blazer, lime green skirt, and a gold headband. You look like corporate Mardi Gras, Ethan said. I call it executive fiesta, she replied with a wink. Somehow, the employees applauded her when she walked by. Every failure was met with Ethan's quiet laughter. And something else, too. He watched her more closely now. He started bringing her coffee instead of the other way around. He began texting her in the middle of meetings with random thoughts. Client wants a 30-slide pitch deck. Kill me. If I ask you to fake a fainting spell in 5 minutes, you in? She always replied with GIFs. He never stopped smiling. On the final day of training, Penelope arranged a mock dinner at the office. Dozens of executives attended, and Will, determined to succeed, wore her best attempt at a formal dress and heels that felt like stilts. She tripped at the entrance, spilled the appetizer on Ethan's lap, knocked over a water glass, and still smiled. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, she said, standing and giving a half bow. I'm Willa Carter, national representative of executive-level clumsiness. The room laughed. Even Penelope cracked a smile. And Ethan, he never took his eyes off her. Later that night, Ethan walked her to the elevator. Was I refined enough for you? Willa asked, glancing sideways at him. No, he said. She looked down, suddenly deflated. But you were Willa, he added. And something about the way he said it, so low, so honest, made her heart stutter. Was this still just training? Or was something real starting to grow in the middle of the mess? She didn't know. But when the elevator doors closed and she saw her reflection in the mirrored wall, messy hair, wrinkled dress, lipstick slightly smudged, she smiled. Because somehow she had never felt more seen. Chapter 5. The Fake Girlfriend Contract. It was barely 9 a.m. when Willa Carter burst through the office doors with a donut in one hand and a coffee cup so full it sloshed with every step. Motivational Monday, she announced to no one in particular. Caffeine, sugar, and personal denial. Employees peeked over their cubicles, used to the Monday morning spectacle known as Willa. She made it to Ethan Ward's office, gently shoved the door open and set a pink box of donuts on his desk. Breakfast, boss, she said. Heavy on the carbs, light on the shame. Ethan looked up from his laptop, his tie already loosened like it had personally offended him. We need to talk, he said. Willa blinked. About what? Did I accidentally send another emoji to the legal team? He turned his laptop around. On the screen was a photo. them at the gala, mid-dance, mid-stumble, mid-smile. It wasn't staged, which was why it had gone viral. Headline: Billionaire CEO caught in secret intimate moment with mysterious assistant. Her stomach flipped. "Oh no," she whispered, "I tripped." It wasn't intimate. It was gravity. Ethan rubbed his temples. "The board wants to know if I'm in a relationship. Ashley sent me a flaming text. And my mother called to ask if we're engaged." Willa nearly dropped the coffee. "Engaged? I haven't even successfully made you coffee yet." He leaned back. "I have a plan. You're not going to like it." "Oh good. Is this the part where I disappear and start a new life as a donut cart vendor?" Ethan looked her dead in the eye. "Pretend to be my girlfriend. For a month." Willa blinked, then blinked again. "Pretend, as in fake?" "As in like in those bad romantic comedies where someone always ends up catching feelings and it's chaos and tears and a big public kiss?" He didn't flinch. "Exactly like that." Willa stared at him. "You've lost your mind. I need the press off my back. You already went viral. This would cool things down. And in return, I'll buy you breakfast every day. Pancakes, bacon, real orange juice." She squinted. "Add hash browns and we have a deal." "Done." They shook on it. And just like that, Willa Carter became Ethan Ward's fake girlfriend. The announcement came that afternoon. He walked into the executive meeting with Willa trailing behind, still wearing a sweater with dancing cats. "Everyone," Ethan said, "Willa and I are dating." Silence. Dead, awkward, pin-drop silence. Ethan's assistant dropped his papers. The marketing exec coughed so hard she knocked over her pen cup. "She spilled coffee on you last week," someone whispered. "True love is unpredictable," Ethan replied smoothly. Willa waved. "Hi." "Yes. I also once sent a llama GIF to international investors. But I bring great snacks." The legal team looked seconds from cardiac arrest. But Ethan just smirked. The news traveled fast, too fast. By the next morning, Willa's inbox was full. "Did you seduce him with your chaotic charm? Is this for real or a new marketing strategy? Are you the new VP now?" She responded to every email with a sticker of a raccoon wearing a crown. At lunch, she took things up a notch. She barged into Ethan's boardroom, full of very serious men in very serious suits carrying a lunchbox. "Honey," she said sweetly, "you forgot your pancakes." Inside the box, bacon, pancakes, and a napkin with a smiley face drawn on it. Ethan didn't miss a beat. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said, unwrapping the food like it was the most natural thing in the world. The investors looked stunned. She winked at one of them. "We believe in carbs." Later that afternoon, she hijacked the company's Instagram. 2 straws, 1 milkshake, Ethan trying not to laugh as she captioned it. "Old school romance, new school chaos. Billionaire boyfriend, send help." He should have been mad, but he wasn't. He laughed so hard he had to excuse himself from a meeting. The next hurdle, meeting the mother. "You want me to meet your mother?" Willa asked, panicked. "Should I bring a peace offering, like tea or fire extinguishers?" "She already likes you," Ethan said. "She saw your gala fall," she said, and I quote, "Finally, a woman who doesn't pretend?" Willa swallowed. "I am not ready for this." "Neither am I," Ethan admitted, "but somehow, I think it'll be okay." Ethan's mother was exactly what Willa expected. Elegant, poised, and terrifying in the way only mothers can be. She looked Willa up and down. "Willa," she said, "I've been told you're unique." "I'm a disaster with a good heart," Willa replied, smiling nervously. The woman paused. Then she smiled. "Perfect." Days passed. The line between fake and real blurred. Willa left sticky notes on Ethan's monitor. "Remember to eat. Also, I changed your Zoom name to Lord of Spreadsheets. You're welcome." Ethan replied with texts. "Rescue me, I'm trapped in a budget review. Let's run away and start a waffle truck." They laughed more. They sat closer. And one night, at a press event, when a reporter asked, "How did you two meet?" Ethan didn't answer with a rehearsed line. He just said. We laughed. A lot. Later, back in her apartment, Willa told Megan, I think I'm starting to actually like him. Of course you are, Megan replied. This isn't a rom-com anymore. This is chapter 5 of your real life. Willa wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because she wasn't sure when the pretending had stopped. All she knew was that when he smiled at her now, it didn't feel like a performance. It felt like the beginning of something she wasn't ready to lose. Chapter 6. The Ex-Fiancée returns. The trouble wore heels, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Willa Carter knew trouble when she saw it, and today it came in the form of Ashley Montgomery, Nicholas's ex-fiancée. She stepped out of a sleek black car like she owned the street, the sidewalk, the glass tower of Ward Global, and maybe even Nicholas's memory. Willa Carter? Ashley's voice was a sugary drawl with arsenic underneath. Willa, caught mid-donut bite, froze. Yes? I'm Ashley, Nicholas's former fiancée. Her eyes flicked down Willa's outfit, sweater, paper coffee cup, mismatched earrings, like scanning a clearance rack. You must be the one keeping the seat warm. Willa swallowed her bite. Not just keeping it warm, I'm setting it on fire. Ashley smiled. How charming. Willa smiled wider. How desperate. The lobby doors whooshed open, and just like that, the Cold War began. Nicholas was in the conference room when Ashley walked in without knocking. He stood up. What are you doing here? Revisiting memories, she purred, settling into a chair. That used to be my seat, remember? Before he could reply, Willa entered, catching the scene like a punch to the ribs. Am I interrupting? She asked. Ashley spun in her chair. Of course not, dear. Stay. I've always been curious about what came after me. Willa crossed her arms. Must be exhausting, watching the sequel do better than the original. Nicholas cleared his throat. Ashley, this isn't a good time. There's never a good time for truth, is there? Ashley's smile soured, especially when it threatens your fantasy. Willa slid into the seat beside Nicholas and took his hand. You know what I love most about us, babe? Ashley raised a brow. Babe? We actually laugh together and eat breakfast and accidentally blow up the office microwave. It's real, it's messy, and it's ours. Ashley stood, her heels clicking like punctuation marks. This isn't a fairy tale, sweetheart. No, Willa replied. It's a romantic comedy. And guess who just became the jealous ex? Ashley's jaw tightened. Nicholas didn't say a word, but he didn't let go of Willa's hand. The next 24 hours turned into meme warfare. Ashley posted an old photo of her and Nicholas on a yacht with the caption, "Some connections never fade." Willa replied with a photo of her and Nicholas struggling to paddle an inflatable boat in a kiddie pool. Some connections can't swim, but still float. Nicholas surprisingly posted an old picture of Ashley and captioned it, "Some exes never move on." And just like that, the internet chose sides. Team Ashley, Team Willa, Team Chaos. Nicholas watched it unfold like a spectator at his own emotional court hearing. At the next company event, Ashley arrived uninvited and armed with a microphone. She gave a heartfelt speech about the good old days, her voice trembling, her hand dramatically touching her heart. And even now, she said, my love for Nicholas still lingers like perfume on a jacket. Willa had had enough. She grabbed a spare mic and marched onto the stage. I may not have yachts or designer perfume, she said, but Nicholas has laughed more in the last month than he has in years. Love isn't about yachts. It's about inside-out dresses and making coffee that tastes like regret. The room erupted in applause. Ashley stormed off the stage. Nicholas stood, walked toward Willa, pulled her into a hug in front of everyone. You're completely crazy, he whispered in her ear. And you love every second of it, she whispered back. But that night, something hurt, because the hug hadn't been fake, and the look in his eyes hadn't been performative, which meant this game, this fake dating deal, wasn't a game anymore. Not for Willa, maybe not for him either, but they hadn't said it, they couldn't. So they stayed suspended in a silent space between performance and truth. And when she lay in bed later, the warmth of that hug still on her skin, Willa whispered the most terrifying thing of all. "I think I'm falling for him. And worse, I think he might not fall back." Chapter 7. When pretending starts to hurt. The elevator lights flickered. Then, stop. Dead halt. Willa looked around, clutching her oversized coffee and a lunchbox of Nicholas as usual, pancakes, bacon, a napkin with a doodled heart. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered. "I wore my good sweatpants today." From the corner, a voice. "Well, at least I'm trapped with the best breakfast in the city." Nicholas stood across from her, tie loosened, holding a cup of tea instead of coffee. "Tea?" she asked. "You got me hooked on chamomile. Apparently emotional chaos pairs well with herbs." She smirked. "Next thing I know, you'll be doing karaoke and buying glitter pens." "Don't push it." The elevator stayed still. No signal, no movement. Just her, just him. And the silence that came when two people were pretending to be something they weren't, until maybe they were. "Want to play a game?" she asked, sitting cross-legged on the elevator floor. Nicholas raised a brow. "Like what? Truth or dare?" "Willa, come on, we're trapped in here. What else you gonna do, make spreadsheets in your head?" He sighed. "Fine, truth." She leaned in. "Why did you really ask me to fake date you?" His jaw tightened. He looked away. "Because you made me laugh. Because the board was watching. Because you were real and messy and it felt like breathing again." Her throat tightened. She didn't speak. Instead, she whispered, "Truth or dare?" "Dare," he said. "Close your eyes." He did. "Now tell me," she whispered. "What's the first thing you thought when you saw me?" Without opening his eyes, he said quietly, "I thought, God help me, I hope she's not leaving anytime soon." The elevator jolted. The lights returned. But they didn't move. They just stood there, inches apart, no longer pretending they weren't falling. And when the doors finally opened, they stepped out with tousled hair, dazed eyes, and every employee in the hallway knew. Megan texted immediately. "You got stuck in an elevator and kissed. I win the bet, pay up." Nicholas stole Willa's phone and typed back, "No confirmation. We might have been rehearsing for a corporate play." She laughed, but inside she was shaking. Because it wasn't fake anymore. Not even a little. The days that followed were worse. Willa still brought breakfast, still left sticky notes on his desk, still called him coffee boss and made llama jokes in meetings. But her heart wasn't in on the joke anymore. She watched the way he looked at her, lingering glances, quiet smiles, and wondered, does he feel it too? Or am I just the comic relief in his movie? And Nicholas? He started canceling meetings just to sit beside her during lunch. He said things like, "I don't laugh like this with anyone else. When you're not here, this place feels colder." But never said the one thing she needed to hear. That it wasn't fake, that it wasn't temporary, that it wasn't going to end. Then Ashley struck again. She posted an interview, tearful, dramatic, filled with words like soulmate, misunderstood love, and unfinished story. Willa saw the headline. She didn't finish reading it. She didn't cry. She just shut down. At night, she sat on her couch, watching old episodes of a baking competition show while eating Nutella from the jar. Megan curled up beside her. "You okay?" "No," Willa whispered. "Because I think..." "And you're scared he won't?" "I'm scared he already has, and it's not me." The next day, Willa arrived early. Earlier than usual. She sat at her desk, opened a new email draft, and typed 5 words. "I can't do this anymore." She didn't send it, but she left it open, staring back at her, reminding her that pretending to be someone's girlfriend was easy. But pretending not to fall in love? That was slowly tearing her apart. Chapter 8. She walks away first. The office was too bright, too quiet, too polished for someone with a storm inside her chest. Willa Carter sat at her desk that morning, staring at the email she'd left open the night before. "I can't do this anymore." It wasn't a resignation letter. It was a surrender to her own silence, to the ache she'd been stuffing into jokes and sticky notes and pancakes. to the truth she couldn't joke her way out of anymore. She had fallen in love with him, and he still hadn't said a word. No stay, no me too, not even a whisper of something real, just glances that made her hope, and silences that made her bleed. She hit print. She folded the letter and placed it on his desk, right next to the half-eaten muffin she knew he liked. She didn't wait, didn't look back, because walking away wasn't weakness. It was the last strong thing she had left. Nicholas walked into his office 20 minutes later. He reached for his coffee, saw the muffin, smiled, then saw the letter, and stopped breathing. Nicholas, I can't keep pretending this is just for show. Maybe it started as a game, that I lost, because I fell, and you're not ready to catch me. So I'll fall somewhere else. Willa. He read it 3 times, then sat down slowly, hands shaking, and said nothing. Willa didn't answer her phone, didn't reply to texts, didn't post llama memes. She disappeared the way storms do when they've done their damage, leaving behind only quiet wreckage. Megan showed up at her apartment 2 days later, arms full of cupcakes, eyes full of questions. You okay? Willa was lying on the couch in an old hoodie, watching a documentary about sloths. I'm great, she said. You're watching a sloth give birth. It's calming. Willa, she sighed. I walked away before he could pick someone else. You didn't even let him choose. I did, Willa whispered. I just got tired of being his almost. At Ward Global, the energy changed. The jokes stopped. The sticky notes didn't appear. The chaos felt sterile. Ethan noticed it in the way the hallways echoed too much, in the way coffee tasted colder. He sat at his desk with the resignation letter still in the drawer, unopened again but never unread. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful. He felt hollow. Because for all the contracts he could write, the mergers he could negotiate, the billion-dollar decisions he made, he couldn't rewrite the ending of this one thing that had started to matter most. Until a letter arrived, in a golden envelope, addressed to Willa. From him, the invitation was simple. Ward Global Annual Celebration. Theme, a celebration of originality. Handwritten note at the bottom. It wouldn't be a celebration without the hurricane who changed everything. Megan held the envelope in front of Willa like it was a court summons. This is your cue. I left, Willa said. I know, but that doesn't mean it's over. You didn't ask me to come back. Megan raised an eyebrow. He asked you to show up. That's louder. The night of the event, Willa stood in front of her mirror, wearing the same navy blue dress from her first interview. Backwards. Again. The zipper in front, the tag flapping like a flag of defiance. She smiled at her reflection. Let's go remind him who I am. When she walked into the lobby, everything stopped. Literally. Nicholas, mid-speech on stage, froze. He looked up and saw her standing there, dress inside out, hair wild from the wind, unapologetically herself. He laughed, out loud, like the first time he saw her, like the moment that had cracked something open in him months ago. And then he stepped off the stage, took the mic. Change of theme, he said. Tonight's not about originality. He looked at Willa. It's about love, the kind that comes in with coffee stains and upside-down resumes, the kind that blows in like a hurricane and teaches you that perfection is boring. He stepped forward. He dropped to one knee. He pulled out a ring box. The crowd gasped. Willa caught her, he said. Will you marry me? Inside-out dresses and all? Willa blinked, then smiled. Only if I can keep setting off fire alarms. Deal. She took his hand, and everyone in the lobby, executives, assistants, interns, all burst into applause. It wasn't a proposal. It was a homecoming. Chapter 9, not so fake anymore. The ring wasn't huge. It didn't sparkle like Ashley's had. It wasn't the kind of ring people photographed for magazines. But it was his, Nicholas Ward's, and it was trembling in his hand. Willa stared at it, then at him, kneeling in front of 100 guests, every camera blinking like a heartbeat. She didn't move, didn't speak, because for the first time in her life, the chaos was quiet. "Say something," Nicholas said gently, "even if it's just a sarcastic comment." She knelt too, right there on the carpeted floor in her inside-out dress and smudged eyeliner, and whispered, "I think I forgot how to breathe." He laughed, and it broke the spell. "I'm serious," she said. "Do you even know what you're doing?" "No, he replied, "not at all." Willa grinned. "Perfect. Then yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, a little too tight. She didn't care. The crowd erupted, but all she could hear was her own pulse in her ears, and his voice in her chest. "This is real now." The party turned into something else. Not a gala, not a corporate celebration. A moment. People danced, laughed, snuck photos, tried to make sense of what had just happened. Willa stood by the window with a champagne flute full of lemonade. Nicholas found her, slid an arm around her waist. "You okay?" "I feel like I just bungee jumped with no cord," she said. He nodded. She looked at him. Really looked. "You asked me to fake date you. You kissed me in an elevator. You let the world believe we were a thing before we even were." "I know," he said. "But when did it stop being fake for you?" He took a deep breath, then whispered, "It never was." She blinked. "What?" "Not after that first day. That dress, that laugh, that voice that made my entire office sound alive again." He touched her cheek. "I just didn't think someone like you would ever stay for someone like me." Willa smiled, eyes suddenly wet. "Someone like me?" "A mess," he said. She laughed. "That's my line." "Well," Nikolai said, brushing his thumb along her jaw, "maybe we're two messes who finally canceled each other out." "No," she said, "we're two hurricanes that met in the middle." And kissed him. This time, not awkward, not rushed. No coffee cup in the way, no elevator holding its breath. Just them. Real. Later that night, back in her apartment, Willa and Megan sat cross-legged on the couch, in pajamas and face masks. "I can't believe it," Megan whispered. "I can't either," Willa replied. "You're engaged. Officially. To a billionaire CEO. A stressed-out, emotionally constipated one. Still counts." They laughed until they cried. And when Willa finally crawled into bed, still in her makeup and with the ring too tight on her finger, she whispered to the ceiling, "Please don't let me ruin this." But deep down, for the first time, she didn't feel like she would. Because he wasn't running away. And she wasn't hiding anymore. They were messy, but they were in it together. Chapter 10. A wedding cake and a warning label. The invitations were accidentally printed with a typo. Instead of Ward Carter Wedding, the gold foil script read, World Carter Warning. Megan howled with laughter when she opened hers. "You realize this sounds like a government alert for public danger, right?" Willa just sighed. "Honestly, it fits." Because marrying Willa Carter wasn't a decision. It was a declaration of war on boredom, on perfection, on clean white shirts and boardroom silence. And Nicholas Ward? He was all in. The wedding wasn't held at a vineyard, or on a yacht, or under a Parisian archway. It was held at the place where it all began. The Ward Global lobby. Polished floors, elevator doors, the same spot where a CEO in a crisp white shirt once got drenched in coffee, and where a girl in a backward dress first offered him a crumpled $20 bill and a dare to feel again. They decorated the lobby with string lights, hanging stars, and potted plants Willa borrowed from every office desk. The CEO's wedding was catered by a taco truck. The guests got Bridezilla survival kits with chocolate, tissues, and coupons for free therapy. And on the gift table was a framed photo of the original dress. Zipper in front, tag still flapping, under a plaque that read, "She changed everything." 30 minutes before the ceremony, the officiant slipped on a rogue packet of glitter and sprained his ankle. 10 minutes after that, the cake collapsed under its own ambition. 5 minutes before vows, Willa stepped on her veil and ripped it in half. Nicholas walked into the bridal suite to find her standing in her bra and half a wedding dress, holding a glue gun and a shoe. "Tell me this is a metaphor," he said, deadpan. "Nope," she replied. "This is just my life." Nicholas crossed the room, tilted her chin up, and kissed her. "Then I'm still the luckiest man in the world." The wedding began 15 minutes late. Willa walked down the aisle in mismatched heels, veil duct-taped and pinned with a safety clip. Everyone expected her to trip. She didn't. But Nicholas did ride on the last step. He stood up with a sheepish smile. "We're already off to a balanced start." The vows? They weren't printed on parchment or calligraphed. Willa scribbled hers on the back of an old sticky note. "I promise to keep things real. To love you when your emails have no subject line. To forgive you when you reorganize the fridge alphabetically. And to never let you forget you once mistook your cologne bottle for eye drops." Nicholas pulled a folded napkin from his jacket pocket and read, "I promise to protect you from boring. To never complain about your midnight nacho cravings. To laugh at your llama memes. And to remember that the girl in the backward dress gave me a future I didn't know I needed." They kissed. The audience cheered. Marcus cried. The fire alarm went off from the sparklers someone lit too close to the cupcake tower. Classic. Later that night, they danced barefoot under twinkling lights on the office rooftop. Willa leaned into his shoulder. Nicholas twirled her. Poorly. Then dipped her worst. "You do know this still counts as a legal wedding, right?" she teased. "Tragically, yes," he replied. "Do you regret it?" Nicholas looked down at her, no suit jacket, sleeves rolled up, tie undone. "I regret nothing," he whispered, "except maybe the tacos before vows." They laughed until they nearly fell over, again. Willa looked at the skyline, and then at him. "You really married a disaster," she said softly. "No," Nicholas replied. "I married my miracle. My hurricane." She kissed him. And in that moment, on a rooftop with burned cupcakes, ruined vows, and a completely imperfect beginning, they were absolutely, unmistakably, they didn't take a honeymoon. Not a traditional one anyway. They spent their first week of marriage eating leftover cupcakes on the conference room table, answering emails in matching pajamas, and dancing in the break room during lunch hour. And somehow, it was enough. More than enough. Because once you've laughed your way through fire alarms, inside-out dresses, fake dating contracts, and surprise elevator kisses, you realize love doesn't ask for perfect. It just asks you to stay. Willa Carter never stopped being chaos. She still brought Nicholas breakfast with crayon-drawn hearts. She still tripped over air, made bad jokes during board meetings, and accidentally sent llama gift to international investors. But she also made him smile. Every single day. And Nicholas? He never stopped being a little too precise, too serious, too wound up. But slowly, under Willa's love, he softened. He began to leave his tie on crooked and let it stay that way. And the man who once lived by schedules and silence now lived for the sound of her laugh in the hallway. The coffee she never got quite right. The woman who came into his world like a walking disaster and turned it into something beautiful. Because maybe love isn't quiet violins and candlelit dinners. Maybe it's mismatched socks and burnt toast. Maybe it's a CEO in a wrinkled shirt holding the hand of the girl who set off his building's sprinkler system twice. Maybe it's knowing someone's flaws so well and still choosing them every morning, every Monday, every time, especially when it's hard, especially when it's messy, especially when no one else would. So if you've ever felt like too much, if you've ever feared that your chaos makes you unlovable, remember Willa. Remember the girl with the inside-out dress, the $20 bill, and a heart too big to fit inside any box. And remember Nicholas, the man who didn't need saving, just someone brave enough to make him feel again. Some stories don't begin with a kiss. They begin with spilled coffee and end with a promise whispered between laughter and breath. With you, even the disasters feel perfect. If this story made you smile, cry, or believe again, share your favorite part in the comments. Someone else might need to hear it too. Because love, real love, isn't always pretty. But when it's true, It's unforgettable.